politics. So hi there. We're here to discuss the problems, the politics, and what we experience when we start a new YouTube channel, particularly the one related to atheism. I'm joined here by my good friend, Foxhole Atheist, Randy Bevan. Hi, Randy.
How's it going?
Well, fine, thanks. We've been chatting about the problem of coming up with good ideas and also attracting new users, new subscribers, and we've decided to share these thoughts with us and with you.
Make an adjustment.
You can join us and you can share your thoughts, your questions. It's a good opportunity to criticize us, to come back with your suggestions, with questions about future videos, and also probably suggest some videos that you would like to see.
Yeah, and that's really, I kind of was interested in just chatting about some of the struggles, some of the things that have worked for us, some things that haven't. What were things that we've done that we noticed an impact from, and just kind of talk about some of that stuff and see where it, where other people, or maybe we can share ideas, or hopefully we'll get other people in here to help other people do this. I've had a gaming channel before, which, it was kind of a whole different thing. It was before I'd done any of this kind of stuff on YouTube. And so, but it was successful, and at one point I'd clocked 250,000 video views and got a partnership and things like that. So I've had a successful channel before, but doing this channel was certainly different. The growth rates were different. The whole subject matter obviously is different, and so it's been a different experience.
There are obviously much more gamers than there are active atheists who are looking for this kind of stuff. On the other hand, I was surprised how many atheist YouTubers there are already, active ones, and the guys who had been active but lately didn't post any videos. But there is already a lot of quite good content, and we still encounter very dumb people. We encounter dumb arguments. Religion is not giving up very easily, and
well, it's kicking and screaming.
For me, it's my personal goal to leave some trace for humankind, to make it a better place to live. This is why I decided I would invest my time in fighting superstition, in fighting things that really scare the planet and really threaten our future, among which the religion is one of the most dangerous, I would say. Yeah.
No, I understand, and everybody needs their own motivation for doing this. Mine has changed a lot since I've started. Originally, I did this. I learned the arguments so that I could present them to my family members. That was my primary goal. Was, the way I saw it, I felt like I was trying to rescue my family from a cult, and to some degree, I still do. But I realized that I'm probably not going to be able to do that. And as time goes on and some of the elders in the family have passed, it seems the whole family has become much more religious and much more fundamentalist than they previously were.
Well, yeah, I can relate to your feelings about that, because I have similar situation with my family. My brother,
yeah,
is very, very religious. I keep having conversations with him, sometimes very heated one. He recently screamed at me, said, "Are you not afraid? Are you not afraid that your descendants will be burning in hell because of you?" I said, "You just confirmed my statement that your God is some kind of a tyrant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
it's very rewarding to get feedback from users.
oh
And
yeah.
I can imagine people in this Bible belt. Fortunately, I'm not surrounded with very religious people where I live now. But I can imagine when people cannot find anybody to talk to about all this stuff. And our channels, I think, really help people to find like souls.
Real quick, I just want to say I'm having to mute the mic here for anyone listening or watches this later on. I'm recovering from being really sick. I'm just now kind of starting to sound like me again, and so I've been blowing my nose and sniffling and coughing, and it's been horrible. I hadn't really done anything online. A few conversations. That was it.
It's very good you've recovered, because yesterday you were unable to speak.
Yeah, I felt awful yesterday. I really did. I slept most of the day. Didn't even really get out of the bed half the time. I do feel a lot better today, though. It's starting to get a little
That's
warm in
good.
here. But no, my attention's changed over time. It's really no longer just about my family. If it has an effect on them one day, great. And I kind of thought about doing some videos that I've been thinking about and planning. I haven't really got started on, but written some scripts, the intervention files or something, I don't know, where I do like anonymous intervention videos. I don't really tell who I'm talking about, but I make a video specifically for someone dear to me, and kind of lay out some things as I see them. And I may still do that, but really now my whole plan and intentions have changed, especially when I consider that one of the big things that I've had success with recently is when I realized, look, I need to hear dogs in the background.
Yeah.
I need to add some serious entertainment value to the channel. You know, I mean, really look at some of the bigger YouTubes. Look at guys like Amazing Atheist and Dusty, right?
Yeah.
They're unabashedly giving their opinion without regard to whatever anyone might think about it. But they're delivering it in an entertaining way. And so that's kind of what I wanted to try and start doing. And I thought about it, I had a lot of fun in the Army as a sergeant and quickly took over a lot of missions, sometimes when I wasn't even the highest ranking guy, because I knew what was going on. I understood it. I figured it out. Hey, this is what'll work best. Let's do that. And people just tended to follow my lead. And so I took some of that and decided, hey, what if I just started shooting these videos and give my natural kind of fluffed up reactions to them. And that certainly has earned me a lot of subscribers doing yelling at stupid people. But, I still feel like that some of my calmer videos have good content, I mean, look at the video I did about slavery in the Bible. I went through multiple translations and looked at them. I got a comparative study Bible, and just really broke down what the Bible has to say on slavery and where, and that whole thing was a nice calm video. And I felt like that was good content, and a lot of people agreed, but it's not going to bring in the kind of views that jumping on camera and going, "You fucking idiot." It just doesn't, it's not. See, you laugh at that. It's not as entertaining. And so when you get animated, people enjoy that. They want to see you get passionate and get into what you're talking about.
As you mentioned before, like a lot of people agreed with you that it was good content. All 20 people agreed with you who looked at me.
Yeah, I mean,
you really pay a lot of attention, you invest a lot of thought into it, a lot of your time, you scramble, you look through like hundreds of pages of photographs to do the clips for your video, and then you have several views, and you think, well, what's that? And then you shout at the camera, just rolling your eyes and saying fuck, fuck, and people will enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think that at least on some of those videos, while I am mostly just yelling about something, I think there are some good points. It's not my best arguments, but there's some reasonable points in there I think I make. And so
Yeah.
there's a multi-layered thing there, but I don't have, especially if I want to give people a natural reaction. That way I'm not trying to shoot this one little clip 3 or 4 or 10 times. After that, it doesn't look natural anymore. It doesn't have the same natural comedic quality, I felt like.
Yeah.
Because I've had to do that a few times, and finally where I might even get to where I just scrap that section and go, you know what, I can't even shoot that now and it not sound rehearsed, I felt like, and didn't even use it. And so I like a lot of it to remain a natural, knee-jerk, this is really how I reacted to what this person said.
Yeah, exactly. And this recent idea by the channel, I don't know whether you took part in it or not. The atheism is unstoppable. He asked his subscribers to watch a video and shoot your reaction to it. So I did it, and I use it on my channel. And people watch the places where you are very upset and where you say bad things. They watch those places several times.
Yeah. When did Atheism is Unstoppable do that? Has it been a while ago, or
a couple of days ago? And I mean, 3 or 4 days ago, he published a video. Yeah, he published a video where he asked to write an email to him, and by email he gave a link to a video, and well, you saw the result. And it was incredibly dumb video by those two creationists.
Like I said, I've been sick for a couple of days here, and so I've been a little bit out of the loop, and so I guess I missed it, but I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, exactly. And like some people even say, well, maybe it's the video about the propensity of atheists to do suicide, to commit suicide. One of the guys said,
comment on that.
Yeah.
I saw the one. Okay, yeah, my bad. I was aware of this. I didn't shoot a video, but I was aware of this.
Yeah, and one of the guys said that maybe they are right. When I hear they talk, I want to go commit suicide. When I was shooting that video with my reaction, I didn't want to go commit suicide. I wanted to punch the face, because there was so much lie there, so much insincere journalism, and so much bullshit.
So let me ask you this: on your channel, have you let me think. What's the way to word this? Have you had any videos that you realized pretty quickly didn't work, that didn't seem to garner interest, especially the way you really kind of expected?
Well,
some that stood out more than others.
Yeah, I mean, the earlier ones, they were trial videos. I was shooting them at night when my 2 kids and wife were asleep, and I was trying to make a quiet voice, but still good enough for people to hear. And it was quite, with no script. I was speaking, and didn't prepare too much. And they were rather long, and if you work on your script, if you work on your thoughts, you'd better make them clear and short. And you can make your video much shorter with the same amount of information. That was exactly what I started doing later. And grappling in ignorance gave me this advice that you have to think what you're going to say, and say it many times before you actually start shooting video, to see and to hear how it sounds. And I really started doing that, and it paid off because the later videos worked much better. And the big success was my reply to Josh Furstein.
Yeah.
It has almost 3,000 views now. Well,
Yeah, it was a good one
with
too.
with only 100 subscribers now, it's a good success. Yeah,
Yeah.
but still the
And that's also another aspect of it, just taking on some bigger names, making sure that you're not just taking on unknowns. I mean, it's easy as an unknown. My first, second yelling at stupid people. I mean, JP Metz, I guess, has got a medium-sized channel, but the other guy, I don't know. I don't think his is all that big. But when I took like the Matt Slick video, I did that one garnered a lot of interest really quickly.
and
And
even he came himself to your channel to invite people to debate him. I was
yeah.
surprised.
I did notice, I did take a serious point of notice that he didn't attempt to answer any of my points or allegations,
Exactly.
or he didn't have a word to say about any of that, though.
Yeah, he just said, "Well, you want to debate me? Come to my place." That's all.
And that's where they can control the conversation and control the I watched the Mike Honcho himself debate, and if you really watch that video, it's interesting how when Mike Honcho was talking, that's when the connection seems to go bad, the recording seems to go bad. It didn't really happen almost any when Bible Thumping Wingnut or Matt Slick were talking. And I found that to be just almost too strange to be coincidence. Like they were trying to, distort what he was saying and trying to make it unclear where someone watching wouldn't get his point. It seemed very deceptive. And he says they even trimmed part of the video off.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me think that they were probably doing the whole static thing on purpose as well.
Yeah, like when they say that religion and Christianity is actually the fountain of morals and stuff, and God is moral, and when I didn't think about it too much, I didn't speak to people about it too much. I didn't speak to Christians too much. It was something in the back of my mind that okay, yes, Christianity maybe it's really moral and stuff. After reading some books, after encountering some people, I started noticing things, and I see a lot of dishonesty, a lot of lies, outright lies, and I don't see any honesty anywhere from any Christian who even remotely tries to debate. They well, I can understand they feel a lot of cognitive dissonance. They feel threatened and stuff, but there is too little honesty, and I'm not surprised at all now when I see somebody making some, some slick arguments and making up stuff and lying.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly there, and it's. I think it's always been there because these arguments, there just are no good arguments to support the Bible. They're just not there, and so any argument for this is ultimately going to fail, and it's going to fall back on some kind of fallacy or some kind of dishonesty, and there's just no way around it. And so the best we can do, and like you mentioned earlier, that there's already a lot of good content out there. And that's true. I mean, there's not much that hasn't been covered already by people way bigger than us. But I think that it's important to, I mean, every once in a while new stuff does come out. There's occasionally a different new argument. Precept was new, kind of new at once at least. Matt Slick did that tag nonsense. I don't know what else. But it is a rare occasion that something new comes out. But I think the volume of material is really what we need to be looking at here. As new generations grow up and look at the content on YouTube and they start searching things, there needs to be a high volume of content that are debunking these arguments. And for whatever reason, one person may like this person more, or may like to hear it from that person more. And as long as these videos and all the content remain, down in the future, who knows what, 10 years from now, videos that were nothing could be huge, and vice versa, right? And so it's just, to me, it's important for lots of new users to get out there and start making these, because they'll understand it better and they'll help others understand it better. It's a volume of content.
Yes, exactly. And also it's very important that new videos are keep coming, because many people do not search for videos. They subscribe to some channels, and then they check if there is something new. If there is something new, they watch it. If there isn't anything new, they don't watch it, and they just don't think about it. So whenever you come with any idea, with any way to look at things with a new angle, it's better to go and make a new video. And I get a lot of inspiration from talking to people, from their feedback. Sometimes even atheists get upset or get me wrong, and I got recently got from the guy Truth Monger. He's in the comment section now. Feedback that I'm a fundamentalist. I go too far when I compare, for example, Christianity with Hitlerism, with Nazis. And then I explained my point that I don't mean to ban the Bible straight away, or to ban it in any point in the future. I just mean to mark it the way it is, that this book contains a lot of cruelty, a lot of mass murder and stuff, and protect the children from selling the Bible as a good book when it's not.
Yeah.
And
I really understood your point in that video, and I tried to stay out of that one and let you and him talk it out. I kind of wanted to jump in because I saw that conversation, but we don't ban the swastika, but socially we understand it's unacceptable, right? I mean, there are people, neo-Nazis and groups and stuff, that still wear it. But for the most part, we all understand that it's socially unacceptable, that this is not correlated with something good.
Right.
And the reality of those books is that they're not correlated with something good. I mean, all you have to do is really honestly sit down and read it.
Right.
And you can see that it's not. And that's the mentality, I think, that you were talking about needs to change, right?
Right, exactly. And I recently had an idea, like yesterday or something, that the best way to promote atheism is just to get those terrible verses and put them on billboards, like the worst verses, and you have a lot of them, and just put them there with no commentary. And what will the Christians do? It's the Bible. It would be an interesting experiment.
It's kind of like, reminds me of the story history. I don't remember the guy's name, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But when the printing press, I guess, was first invented and they started mass producing the Bible, was really the first time they realized, oh, wait, hey, look, all these versions we're looking at don't agree with each other, and they say different stuff. And so he composed some kind of compendium that has, like, where he didn't use all of them, but went and reprinted like the most common versions of those verses, and people just exploded like, oh, you're trying to discredit the Bible. And well, as his supporters pointed out, he didn't invent the contradictions, he just listed them.
And so, I was surprised to find out that the church was very much against the printing press, as the same way as they were against a lot of other stuff, a lot of new
inventions. They realized pretty
inventions.
quickly when that first attempt was made to mass produce the Bible that this isn't really as good a thing as we thought. Because nobody had even considered that before. It seemed like we had no idea that was even a problem. until
Yeah,
they started trying to figure out, well, which one do we print?
yeah, that's a good point. And you know what
But
really
well,
surprised?
and
Yeah.
just to add one more thing to that, I mean, it wasn't until the printing press that they even realized there was a problem. You got to realize that how just really in all the grand scheme of things, that wasn't so long ago, right? It really wasn't that long ago. And so just a couple hundred years, and they finally figured out, oh, I don't know, I forget what it was. It might have been 16, 1700. No, that's not right. What was the printing press? I got
Yeah, I mean, and guess what? I'm surprised they came up with a new tactics with just preaching like selected verses and counting on the fact that most vast majority of the people will never read the Bible actually as it is, and they go even so far as to take a part of the verse and put it on some billboard, not saying that, for example, as I saw recently, Ray Comfort took part of the verse that homosexuality is bad, and people say, okay, why don't you put the whole verse which says that homosexuals should be stoned to death? Why don't you put that ending to your billboard? I mean, and they succeed
yeah.
in it. There are websites. You just Google, you get all the translations. You Google and you get all the contradictions. It's all at the tip of your fingers, and you still they still don't go and read.
Well, having been there before, it is largely that we were unaware of it. I know that growing up, my family was largely unaware, certainly didn't ever talk about those kind of verses. I thought I had read a lot of the Bible up to a
Hmm.
point when I finally realized that I hadn't. I felt like I had read most of the Bible, and I hadn't. I hadn't even come close. You know, just what I had gotten reading the little bits here and there and going to church for many years when I was young didn't even come close to showing me what was actually in there. Listening to all those sermons, and that's what really blew my mind. I sat there and thought, you know, I've been listening to sermons for all these years. Where these guys are supposed to be teaching us about the Bible. I've never heard any of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
Well,
mean, it's
I
just
mean,
right there to read, too.
yeah, I mean, even we can talk about some obscure, some weird passages, but we don't have to go very far or search very long time, because as Davon from Atheism is Unstoppable said recently, that he was also a Christian, or he studied in a Christian school, and he had no idea about the real content of the Lot story. The Lot story is one of the most well-known stories about Sodom and Gomorrah, how God punished them. But nobody is talking about places where he actually proposed the gang of rapists their two
Yeah,
virgin daughters, and then they lost their wife, and like his wife and the mama, just for looking back, and then they didn't find anything better than just to rape him, their father. I mean, it's all that crazy, and people, even after the schools, after Christian schools, have no idea that it's there.
yeah.
And I had a very,
You know,
very scary experience with my brother, because I honestly told him, well, I don't think you have read the whole Bible. And he said, no, I have. I have many times. And for example, I have passages from Deuteronomy that I like. And it was really scary for me. I mean, how can anybody who has read the Bible, especially several times, and then the verses that say, kill your brother if he comes to you and asks to worship another god? I mean, it was scary for me to to find out that my brother has read that stuff. And
Yeah.
you know what? In our language, a lot of stuff seems to be very, very obscure. It's like have them or I don't know, other stuff. In English, you read it says go have sex with them, or well, it's much more straightforward. So I believe part of that is that in our language, the Bible isn't that harsh. And by the way, it's another problem. They just keep quietly editing it. They leave out from some translations mentioning of dragons, mentioning
Yeah.
other ridiculous things. They just leave them out.
You see it when you look across a comparative study Bible. You can see as the versions become more modern how they edit out all the harshness. Where where it says, I don't know, if you look at the King James version, for example,
Mm-hmm.
young girls. When the Bible talks about young girls, young virgins, it's talking pretty much about a real specific age category, right? Which is like the marriable age, the way they viewed it back then, which was anywhere from 6 or 9 up to like 12. And that's literally the age category for young girls, young virgins in the Bible. It's a specific thing. When you look into the new ones, it'll just say girls or women, when
Mm-hmm.
clearly this was not talking about women, and things like that. And just you can see how blatant it is, and it really makes the fact that there are so many versions of it today kind of almost makes you wonder, how could I have? I have to look at it from my perspective. How could I have believed this? Just didn't know any better, right? I mean, that's the only answer I have for all of that kind of stuff. We just didn't know any better.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there is a tendency in us that when we have something established
We're getting
in
off
our
track,
life.
by the way.
Sorry?
We're getting way off subject, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We're,
Well,
we're, we're back to bashing religion now.
yeah. I mean, when I'm getting back to the subject, and it's actually why it's important to come up with a new content and new stuff because, and answering your question, when you have everything established, when your body functions fine, when you have your health fine, when you have established set of beliefs, and there is nothing that shocks you, there is nothing that pops into your vision, then you just don't question it. Okay, there is some, and I myself, I didn't go to church all the time, or I didn't consider myself a big believer, and I knew about, well, the things I mentioned in my videos is just considering the afterlife and mechanisms, how how it should work and stuff like that. I came to the conclusion that it's ridiculous. But usually people just don't question things, and we have to come up with new content. We have to go from different angles, from different perspectives. And you know what? And I'm not, sometimes when I find a huge or a very, very clever channel on YouTube, sometimes, my hands, I say, well, what else can I do? Why should I even continue with this? But then later I think, well, I still have my unique perspective on this stuff. And that's really the case, because some things I'm now subscribed to like 25 channels, and I've looked through some dormant channels too. And I never stop finding new and new and new perspectives, new ideas, and new ways to compare things, to combine things. And everybody has his own unique perspective, and it's very interesting. And also I read books by Sam Harris, by Richard Dawkins, by other guys. Now I'm reading the book by Christopher Hitchens, and all of them also have in some ways similar thoughts, but in other ways very different ways of phrase things. And I get inspirations from the books and from the videos and from debates with like-minded people and with someone who tries to debunk stuff. I even, I even recently tried to debate on the other side, because I thought, well, let's imagine I'm a, let's imagine I'm a believer with all my knowledge that I have, how I would be able to protect religion. What ways would it be fine to protect religion? And you very soon realize that it's natural that they just pick and choose, they just evade arguments, and there is no ground. It's a slipping ground. You step on something, and and it's very, very difficult to get refuted with the very kind of arguments I would use, and very difficult to remain a believer when you start questioning it. And I remember reading from Richard Feynman. He addressed religions in many places. And he said, well, religion is the very opposite of science. In science, you can come with a preconceived notion that you are wrong just about everything. You doubt everything. And then you prove to yourself. And the most easy person to fool is yourself. And then you try to prove yourself wrong. You try to find weak spaces in your own thoughts, in your own ideas. And as soon as you start doing this with religion, you are on a slippery slope, and you can never come back.
Yeah. And then it's a fantastic point, and it really does illustrate it quite well. That's the one step they can't take, because it'll send them sliding down the slope. If they truly evaluate, what are the holes in my thinking? That's where it begins, and that's where it began for me, because I believed all this stuff, and it wasn't until finally around the age of around 19 that I sat down and decided, to look at that myself. Let's see what the weak points are. Let's see, can I defend this? And it was really because I was trying to make the determination. What am I fixing to do? What's my next step? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I gonna, as a boy, my brother and I had quite often around the ages where we got baptized, talked about becoming a pastor or a priest or something when we got older. And I think that was what I was considering. Going into the ministry and becoming a permanent part of that. And had I made a different choice, I would be a completely different person today, probably. Or either that, or I would be registered with the Clergy Project. But, and so that's what I did. I started looking at my beliefs and going, hey, is there weak spots in this? And when there were weak spots, can I defend them? And the moment I started honestly trying to do that, it all just unraveled on itself. I realized very, very quickly that I can't support any of this. I can't authenticate any of it. I can't find real, reasonable evidence, the kind I understand for things in space, There's not that kind of evidence. None of such thing, nothing. It just wasn't there. And it was like a cascade. It happened really quickly that I realized there were all these problems where for the last 19 years I hadn't considered any of this, Never knew of any of the problems. I don't think I had ever even questioned some of the crazier stories in the Bible with any legitimacy yet at that point. If you asked me, I would have told you I believed in Noah's Ark. I feel silly saying that right now. I believed in Noah's Ark.
I asked my brother what he thinks about Noah's Ark, and somehow he says, well, the scientists say that there was a period of heavy bombardment when there was a lot of water coming down to Earth with comets. I said, well, and he says, that's the global flood. I said, well, there should, I mean, they're trying, and he personally is trying to, to find something in the science that remotely is like that, what he's talking about. Never mind that the flood, the idea of the flood was to kill the wicked people. And the heavy bombardment happened when there were doubtedly any microorganisms at all.
Yeah, and not only that, but as soon as that period started, I mean, the surface was basically lava, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's
It wasn't an ocean that was drowning everything. It was lava.
I mean, it's a big mystery for me. What happens in the heads of moderate believers? I mean, I have a colleague here where in my office, and she's from India and she is Christian. She is Catholic. I asked her. Well, she's very, very nice and easygoing person to talk to discuss just anything. She's very friendly. And I asked her, do you believe in virgin birth? She smiled and said, yes, I do. I believe in virgin birth. Well, I didn't want to go further, to question or to ridicule things. But I mean, how can they? I mean,
Well,
how
actually,
can?
that's one that, as the more modern me, I actually accept as completely possible. It doesn't make it a miracle, though. I think there are actually known cases where teen couples dry humping and the sperm made it through the underwear into the vaginal
Well,
canal
yeah.
and
I
impregnated.
mean, perfectly reasonable. But
Yeah,
for
so
that,
virgin birth, I
you
don't have a
need.
problem
I
with.
mean, no. I mean, you have a male, you have sperm, and you you have contaminated by sperm,
Yeah,
and that's
it's just
perfectly
the whole
natural
it was a
process.
miracle part that I have a problem with.
I mean, virgin birth meaning the girl who hasn't touched any man in any way and just became pregnant. I mean, that's the way
Yeah.
that the Christians try to portray it.
Yeah, but
And
I think the Bible, it depends on which there's two isn't there two accounts of that? And one of them actually says that Joseph had sex with her or something. I,
uh,
I have to look that up. I think there is. It doesn't really matter, but I think there's actually two versions of that story in there.
and
One
and
of them
uh,
suggests
to,
that Joseph was the father, though.
and two gospels make no claims about virgin birth at all. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, virgin birth. It's not that important even to mention it.
I don't think so. I mean, like I said, I can even grant that a virgin birth happened because we actually have basically records of virgin births here in modern times, where a girl hasn't had sex and still got pregnant.
Well, technically, if they do some manual stuff, then that is still sex. If you can
Well, it's a
get
sexual act, but it's not sex. And
for me,
still, I mean, ejaculate onto, you know. I'm not saying Joseph did this, but maybe he just jerked off on her underwear and then she put them back on. And that's not even a sexual act on her part.
and
I'm
that
just
that was
saying there's lots of other explanations for a virgin birth other than Magic Skyman.
yeah, exactly.
But it's that kind of I just never questioned that kind of stuff early on. But you know, uh, with the channels, with the YouTube channels, bringing to light some of that information is really some of the best stuff we can do. And the more of it's out there, the more consistently it's out there, more people will realize it. And it's only because of information like that that I'm outspoken the way I am now. And so if it brings some, I have to look at it through that lens and say, well, I mean, if it can attract someone like me and make, I mean, well, back at 19, I wasn't using the internet much, to be honest. At least for not for that kind of stuff. Video games and crap like that, maybe, but I wasn't looking at those kind of arguments, and so I didn't use the internet for that back then. But I tried to find people, and talk to them. Found atheists here and there. Back when I was still a Christian, around those ages, and I used the Bible a lot and just tried to validate the stuff in the Bible. But now, the more of that we bring out, the higher chance that we'll attract similar people who hadn't heard of these arguments, and it makes them curious about it. They get into them, and I see that as a rescue. And everyone we rescue is worth our time. I mean, later on, there were certainly times when I wasn't an outspoken. I guess I became an atheist a year later, somewhere late 20 maybe. But I was not outspoken about it. I just didn't believe anymore, and I kind of left it at that. But later, I started finding this kind of information that we do, and it gave me a little bit of motivation and woke me up to realize that this is needed and that there should be more people doing it. And so, I mean, I could still be I could have ended up being a preacher. I could have ended up being just one of those quiet atheists. But this kind of content made me realize that, hey, I could do that too. I think it's important. It made me realize that we should consider this important. And, it was worth gaining a voice for whoever made the videos that influenced me. And if I make videos that'll influence someone, that was worth my time as well. And anyone else who is doing this.
Yeah, I agree completely.
We just need more voices.
And the more I read books by Dawkins, and especially by Sam Harris and by Christopher Hitchens, the more I agree with them that it's not just a private belief. It's not just something that, well, he is moderate, fine. Let him believe whatever he wants. Well, because it's very, very dangerous. Because when people are open to scams, to trusting stuff that they have no confirmation or independent, proofs, the more the more it is risky that somebody tomorrow will come to the power who may be a maniac who will today I thought came to my mind, if there is some guy who is in power, who is a president of a country with nuclear weapons, and he happens to find some prominent or very young and talented guy who can do tricks, who can do conjuring tricks, and who can influence people in terms of like getting them to trance state, and he can say this bad guy with the power can say, this is new Jesus, follow him, and they could do crazy stuff, like they could really screw up a lot of things, and they can start wars, they can start a world war, actually, if enough people start following them. And when you have millions and millions and millions of people who are honestly are waiting for the rapture, for apocalypses, who are not concerned about global warming because anyway Jesus is coming. When there is new Jesus, they are happy to believe it. Like the thing I just read in the book when in mid 40s or something, a Christian sect, a preacher took his followers to a mountain because they thought that day the rapture was coming, and they were disappointed that the world didn't end. And you know how perverted this whole idea and their own thoughts are. I mean, I can imagine that they were normal people who went to work, very fortunate that they just went to that mountain, that they didn't do anything crazy. Like you shared the link when some mother, a homeschooler, tried to kill her children after her husband told her that the rapture was coming. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so worthy of the time to fight this stuff, to try to eliminate all this stuff from people's minds, because it's really dangerous, especially when
Yeah, agreed. That's
nuclear weapons are becoming so much more accessible.
yeah. That right there is a great illustration of your point. The fact that she was able to, on faith-based reasoning alone, kill her children. It,
Yeah,
what people believe matters. You
I
know,
would
and
imagine nobody would say before that point that she was crazy, she was a fundamentalist or something. I mean, by the way, what do you think about the term fundamentalist? Is there such a thing as a fundamentalist, or
well, she was.
there is just because?
I was raised in what we can. I mean, inside our own circle, we considered a fundamentalist church.
Mm,
The Southern Baptist churches openly identified as fundamentalists. They're proud of it.
and how do they define it? Being fundamentalist?
Well, I don't know if I could give you that. It's been years ago when I was a child. It was
I
just my
mean,
first
what's
church
your
was that.
understanding of it?
But I mean, it is strictly strict adherence.
Okay, so I mean, strict adherence, right? It's like we are devoted to this book, and we take it very word for word, and we adhere it.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would say it's something similar to saying that you are actually a true believer. Uh, you're following the book, because as soon as you start being secular, as soon as you start being decent and moderate, you are decent and moderate to the same degree as you corrupt or you betray your book, because you mentally uh, tear down or tear out some pages. You mentally cross out some
Well,
passages, and you
well,
actually.
it depends on how they're doing it because, of course, some Christians look at the Bible as largely allegory or um, what's the word I'm looking for there? I guess allegory is kind of close.
Yeah, allegory, not literally
Not literal.
translation.
Yeah. More just stories to illustrate points. But but I would certainly say that biblical literalism has a direct correlation with fundamentalism.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but you can have some fundamentalists that still see big portions as allegory, as just fables. Um, Although it's certainly less common, you still find that in some very liberal, non-denominational churches that, are very open to the other interpretations and aren't, offended by them, might still look at gays as being, immoral or evil. So there is still some of that going on. It's not strictly tied just to biblical literalism. Maybe. Well, I don't know. I guess it still is biblical literalism, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Even if they're
mean,
not looking at the rest of it.
the the toughest part for me is well, it says, okay, kill your brother. Just take the sword and kill the person, do make the first strike. I mean, it's imperative. It tells you what to do. It should be a law. How do you? I mean, how can you interpret it as some allegory? I don't know. A
Yeah,
lot of stuff in the Bible is written as the direct uh, law. I mean, what should you do? Read the Bible. It says do this in this case as a law. And
yeah. And I have to wonder sometimes, though, when we make the point that the Bible says this stuff, and that, if you really believe that this was the Word of God, you'd be doing it. I wonder if we're doing harm or good by pointing that
yeah,
out.
that's very interesting. That was the question woman with which you had a heated discussion, Rainbow or something like that. Her nick is actually when you say they betray the book and they actually are not the followers. Then you actually echo the same thing that the worst fundamentalists say. They say, okay, you secular guys and moderate guys are not actually believers at all. But I would say that maybe somebody will say, okay, I support Sharia law, or I support extreme Christianity, but probably the most people will start doubting, or will probably say, yes, we should abandon the book altogether. It's not an easy question to answer. We should have more data about it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we shouldn't stay silent. And in this respect, I pretty much support the point of view of Richard Dawkins, because he says uh, there are creationists who believe in evolution, and he gets criticized for bashing even them, because Richard Dawkins says, no. If you believe in evolution, if you believe in modern cosmology, and you still consider yourself Christian, that you're not a Christian, then you're funny. The only people who deserve to be called Christians are the ones who are fundamentalists and who give literal interpretation of the Bible. And Richard Dawkins gets criticized for that, because he presumably scares away allies who support evolution against the young Earth creationists who are against evolution. But I tend to agree with Richard Dawkins that the main problem is actually creationism and the religion in general.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the truth. It's probably not
It is.
the interesting or pleasant thing to hear, and you shouldn't hold back and stay silent on parts of the truth just to please some temporary allies who believe evolution but still believe in other ridiculous stuff.
It's really it's kind of like, let me find a good comparison. Like, when I was talking to John recently in that last video, and I used the whole "can God make something so heavy he can't lift it" argument, right? Just trying to demonstrate to him the basic conflicting nature of God and how easily something like that can be demonstrated.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that kind of deductive reasoning for that argument is valid, and it makes a good point. It's not something I want to hinge a whole statement or argument around or harp on a whole lot, but it is a valid observation that the basic premise is that, can your God do anything? Is he all powerful? Yes. Well, then, can he make a rock so heavy you can't lift it? And
Hmm.
then they get into this wishy-washy, and John kept trying to say, well, no, he can't do that, and he couldn't understand what I'm saying. As soon as you say no, he can't do that, you're limiting him,
Yeah,
and
it
you're
was a hilarious
contradicting
part of
yourself.
the discussion. Yeah, it's interesting.
And so, in the same way, it is an interesting point to say, really and honestly, if you're not a hardcore biblical literalist fundamentalist, that you're probably not really a Christian. It's an
Right.
interesting, valid observation. It's not a great point to harp on. I don't feel like it's not a real great argument to be making. It's true, but uh, you know, it is an interesting question. If you might be doing more harm than good with that single observation of truth.
Well, well, let's speculate. Let's try to
Yeah.
think what could be the outcome of this. Should well, with Muslims, I can imagine that some guys get upset and they say, okay, now after you're forcing me to think this, then I go and join ISIS or something. But with Christians, when you talk to a Christian, what could be an outcome of that?
Well, I mean, you could see a resurgence of the kind of Christian fundamentalism we had a few hundred years ago, which was arguably way nastier than what we have in modern times with Muslims.
Yeah, I agree. So,
And so that's the worst that could happen. We could go back to that,
yeah, exactly.
Dark
Mm.
Ages. And so it's a scary prospect either way, and I don't have a good answer for that, but I know that you know the, I find myself unwilling sometimes to not speak the truth. And if that's a valid observation to say that if you're not, directly adhering to this book, that you're not really a Christian, you know, uh, I I don't know. I think it's something that if it's the truth, it needs to be stated. And what people make of that will be what they do. I would hope that in modern times we'd see it'd be less likely that that would occur, that you'd see a resurgence of real fundamentalism in Christianity.
I guess, if we are talking about some ways this resurgence can happen, then it's much more likely that it can happen because of people not questioning anything, because of mass preaching, because of mass selling of this book, and editing the verses and making movies that omit unpleasant places. It's much more likely that this would cause this, going back to Dark Ages, than us telling them that these verses exist and you are not actually a Christian because you are crossing out those verses in your head. I mean, I'm more inclined to believe that we are not, we are doing more good than harm by this, because
Yeah,
we are uh, asking more people to question that bullshit that would
of
otherwise
course.
would go unnoticed.
But it is an interesting question that you kind of got to ask yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But if there is a real resurgence, it's going to come through control of the monetary system, which is kind of what they're trying to do. This is the best shot they have at it. I think they know that, is using the wealth that the church has amassed to basically buy the government, to buy, fundamentalist Christian seats in the government and control it that way. That's the best shot they have at it. They seem to be making a hell of a run at it, but I think the digital age has gone too far. I think we've reached a threshold where it's basically a point of no return, and unless there was something catastrophic to kick mankind back into the Stone Age worldwide. The internet will live on, even if it's not in this one country. Even if they got this country, the internet will live on, and the information will live on, and it'll grow from there. And I think that the world is heading toward a non-religious humanity. This is just the start of the decline.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that several books like Atheist Universe, which Richard Dawkins cites very much in his God delusion, then his God delusion, then The End of Faith, God is Not Great. Those books produced a huge wave of activists like me, like you, and people don't want to be silent anymore.
Yeah.
And I think
That's a big part of it. You're right. People don't want to be silent anymore. I think that humanity's total knowledge has grown enough that the average person is becoming smart enough to see through a lot of this stuff. They're at least seeing the problems and becoming interested in the great debate from both sides. Yeah, I think we're heading toward good things, but we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon. So I want to ask you a couple questions, just general stuff, and see, like, if you had some final major tips for people trying to grow a channel, trying to make it bigger. What are some of the things that have worked for you in gaining subscribers?
Well, I guess what has worked for me was making some interactive stuff, engaging people, discussing stuff in the comments, in having coverage in social media, having your own Facebook, Google Plus, and Twitter accounts. Participate yourself in atheist groups. There are groups that have 50,000 subscribers. When you start participating there, discussing stuff, sometimes relating to your videos, people start watching and connecting as friends to you, and that helps grow the channel. And the content itself should be high quality. It should have good light, it should have good sound, it should have interesting idea, it should grab attention from the very beginning of the video, and it should be entertaining, as we discussed before. It should be shaking, you shouldn't be wanting to fall asleep while you're watching. What would be your tips?
Yeah, those are some great tips. The making sure you're connected through other social media so that people can find you. When I set up the because I relaunched my channel pretty recently, and I only had, I don't know, 13 or 20 subs, and so I made the Foxhole Atheist Facebook page, and I've only got 70 something likes on that page. But I felt like I got a lot of those people also as subscribers pretty quickly because of that. The Twitter account, I rebranded it, put Foxhole Atheist stuff on that, and that grew really fast. I went from just, I don't know, I probably still already had, because I had that Twitter account back when I was doing my gaming channel. And all I did was rename it and rebrand it. And so I probably still already had, I don't know, 200 followers on Twitter, but that's grown up to almost 600 now. And so
it's amazing.
Yeah, and so just using those other mediums in that way, and also I've been posting on Reddit a little bit lately. And so basically branching out through the social medias and really getting involved. Before I rebranded the channel, I got on Facebook and started talking. And I've spent like the whole last year building up friends and talking in channels and arguing, debating online before I relaunched my channel. kind of perfecting and honing some of my arguments, I felt like. And then I relaunched the channel, and I already had a whole bunch of people on Facebook who knew me, and knew and liked my arguments. Where I would make an argument and get a bunch of likes, and so I'd gotten some notoriety from that.
Hmm.
And so I just used that, and that's been a lot of what's been growing my subscribers at that kind of steady pace. Is I had a network of friends, of people who kind of knew and understood me already, I guess. It's getting pretty dark here, though, and unfortunately, when I'm sitting in here, if I turn that light on behind me, you won't see anything better than you do now. It just glares in the camera.
It doesn't matter. The main thing is the sound. I turned my camera off because I obviously have a bad uplink, because when I have my video, my sound gets cuts off. So I think people better listen to the sound better than see me. This is
That's a good
why,
point.
yeah, you shouldn't think about it too much. On the other hand, when you watch a hangout, when none of the people has a camera active, then it's also a little bit annoying. This is why I prefer having my camera on, but for that I need a good uplink. But well, never mind. So, have you ever had any shout-outs by other channels?
You? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've had a number of people share the videos. Trying to think. I mean, I guess maybe not in a video. No, I guess not.
Yeah, the only shout out I had so far was from the prototype atheist, and he, at the end of his video, he said to check out my channel, and it wasn't easy to say how many subscribers it had generated, because I was trying to do my own stuff, to post on some social media stuff and discuss and invite some guys. But analyzing my videos in terms of audience retention, I know that by the end of the video, there are quite few subscribers, or quite few viewers who are still watching. So putting a shout out at the end of the video isn't that does not seem to be that effective. And not so long ago, King Crocodile made a very good shout-out video. It was a separate video, just video with the catchy name, "Subscribe to these or else." And
Yeah.
he gave, like, you remember, he gave like 5 or 6 channels, and
Yeah.
he explained what was good about every one of them. And it generated a lot of new subscribers for those channels. For example, the Atheist Minority channel, I subscribed myself. She has good content.
Yeah. I did
So
too. I
if
think I subscribed to all of those. There was 2 of them I was
yeah,
already
yeah, yeah,
subscribed to,
yeah,
but I mean, a user like King Crocodile, I mean, he's in atheist circles. He's basically what we would consider a household name.
hmm,
He's easily as famous as Matt Dillahunty,
yeah.
and so um, I mean, a guy like that shouts you out. Yeah, it's a big deal. You get a lot of subs out of that. Prototype Atheist channel, I guess what I consider. How many subs has he got? I forget.
Closer to 700 now.
Okay, yeah. So
I've
he's on
I've heard,
the small medium side, I guess, right?
yeah, I've heard a shout out from Villanoid to him. This is how I knew about his channel, and I subscribed to his channel too.
Hmm.
And he joined our little group called "Belief is Not a Switch"
Yeah,
uh, in in Facebook.
yeah. I hadn't been on there in a while. Uh, well, this is I don't know. It's certainly a lot of fun to do. I feel like Alex Botten recently. You know, he's decided to take a break from the Great Debate. He's still making videos and stuff, but um, I certainly go through phases where, you know, for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, I just don't feel like it. I don't want to make anything, doing other stuff, you know, and then it seems like sometimes I'll make 3 or 4 videos in a week,
Hmm.
you know, and there's I don't think that, you know, I've thought about that, and I've thought about using scheduled uploads and trying to even more evenly distribute the content on my channel, and I recommend that. I just don't seem to be able to do that myself, and it doesn't fit in my nature very well.
And you know what? I also feel it's important because myself, when I subscribe and when I know that more or less once a week this guy comes up with a good video and this video is about 5 minutes long, then I'm used to listen to that. And when there is a week or two and he doesn't come up with the video, you know, I remember I'm ready to get a new video, and I get a little bit upset.
Yeah, I definitely make some sometimes. And you know, I've done some scheduled uploads, but I find myself always getting really eager. You know, I've got this content. You know, I felt like it was good enough that I uploaded it. I want people to see it, and I get kind of antsy watching it sit there on the scheduled list.
Yeah, I can understand you very well when you say, well, I could have already 150 views by now,
Oh,
and now I'm losing my audience. Well, uh,
wife started cooking shortly after we started the hangout.
so I mean,
But I
let's
don't
warm
know.
up.
I'm hoping that we had some useful tips. I know some of it just turned into general religion bashing, and that was interesting too.
Yeah, I guess so.
You might
And
want to you might want to add something to the title, or I don't know.
yeah, I will probably change the title a little bit. And I hope that there are some people who will find this really useful and interesting, and maybe even there will be somebody who would subscribe because of this video.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that we got out some of the things that worked for us and some that didn't. Uh, how we grew, what we have so far, and those are really the best. I think some of the best point going to be some of the best points of the video. You know, we talked about getting this different social medias and advertising through those, putting your videos out there, talking about what you do, expanding a network so that people know you. Get on the other social medias and just talk to people.
And another tip from me would be, well, I feel like it's a little bit cheap, but it would still be effective. You know, I personally prefer deep thoughts, some interesting ideas, some really complex stuff to discuss, and I personally prefer your videos about that over more simple stuff with just shouting. But that's not something that is very attractive for most of the people, it seems to be. And
Yeah.
my tip would be that you should be able, like me and you and any other YouTuber who is fresh and who is starting, should be able to ride the waves of you know, some media events, like the recent scandal with Ben Affleck. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When you put a video on that, it has a good chance to get launched very well when people to get viral when people share it, because
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's pretty uh, current and people are talking about it. So that's a very
Yeah, that's a
good.
good point. I'm shocked we
It's
hadn't
in
mentioned that
addition. It's
before.
in addition to going after big names. You should be going after big events.
Yes, yes. And some of my other videos like that have done reasonably well. That's actually one when we kind of got so sidetracked. When I asked you about it, like videos that you thought would do well and didn't and stuff, that was when I had one like that, and it was the mom Kirsten Kroger story. I expected that video, maybe not to, be as big as like maybe the Matt Slick video,
Uh-huh.
but I
Hmm.
expected it to have a little more draw than it got. You know,
Hmm.
I don't even think it got 100 views yet, and that was like episode 4 or 5 or 6. I don't know, 5 or 6. But that was one
Okay,
that
so sometimes that's an example of a video that you expected to perform better than it did actually.
yes, yes, I did, and I wasn't expecting wildly better, but like I said, to date, it still doesn't have 100 views, I don't think, and so I was a little disappointed by that one. And I thought the intro on that one especially was kind of nice. I did that one sitting here in this room, in my computer room. I don't know.
Yeah, but the way, by the way, that you're shouting videos, is it kind of vegan or what's that place?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Where do you shoot your, this very small place where you shoot your videos
Oh,
yelling at stupid people?
most of them are shot out in my shop. When we
Uh,
moved into this house, I bought a steel building and poured some concrete and stuff and erected it all myself.
uh-huh, okay. Okay, because it looks like industrial, very, you know.
Yeah, it's like a A-frame shaped, congruated building, folded steel.
Interesting.
You see a lot of them open-ended greenhouses and those style buildings. It's just like that, except it's all steel.
Okay. And
It came with a bucket of, I forget what it was. It was 16,000 16,950 bolts or something. A whole 5-gallon bucket of. Oh, there's so many of them putting that thing together.
yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, I built all that. I did have some guys come out and pour the concrete, but we dug it and leveled it and did all the wood framing and stuff. It was all ready to go when they got here. Just had to pour it.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is that in the video, the person should be aware of what effect he would like to achieve. Some people have like a library behind them, a lot of books. They look clever. Some people uh, obviously don't care what they have behind them, like a messy own room, which I don't like and I would not recommend to have. So I prefer something more stylish, like simpler or some style,
Yeah.
something that you really want to be there. You have to think what should be behind you, how you look, how you're dressed, what message everything that is around you should convey.
Yeah, I think mine conveys I just don't care. I got there's a big pile of paper stuff back there that I was just trying to design a wood or kind of like a wood burning furnace deal, except it was going to burn paper garbage and to add heat to the shop in the winter because it gets cold as hell out there.
Uh-huh.
And so that's where I do a lot of this stuff from, though, because it's nice and quiet and peaceful, and we sit dogs, and so there's a lot of times they're in here barking, or the kids are in here watching a movie, and it's
Uh-huh.
just not a good environment to be recording in anyway.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be doing those kind of videos and where the kids can hear either. And so,
Yeah, we have a comment from Truthmonger. He agrees with our points, and he says people want to be entertained, and you have to change their minds as you entertain them. It's a very good, ability to be able to combine both, to speak clever and convincing thoughts while you're still interesting and entertaining person. That's something to work on.
yeah. And that's what I tried to do when I decided to do the Yelling at Stupid People series. Um, I mean, you can word it a lot of ways. You can even say that maybe I sold out accuracy a little bit. Um, I'm willing to right up front grant that those aren't always my very best arguments because I'm just flowing and ridiculing and mocking, you know. But there are definitely some great points and arguments in there, and I'm making an effort to entertain, and I'll get better at that as I go along, probably, where I can maintain certain accuracy and still call someone a stupid motherfucker. But you know, there's a passion level, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier about not wanting to reshoot and reshoot because you lose some of the instant passion you had as a natural reaction to a comment. And so,
Mhm.
if I feel like the accuracy has gone way out the window, if I'm just demonstrably wrong, of course, I don't want to use that. Oh, you know, I go back and listen. Nah, I don't like that clip. I was wrong when I said that, and I'll toss that one. Um, just because when you're flowing in the moment, you don't always think about each qualifier. And for me, qualifiers are important. So that's a lot of my big issue is qualifiers. How did I say that? Even if my general point there is right, if I left a word out, I feel like I want to reshoot that. Or, you know,
Mhm.
and then also trying to avoid mumbles or stutters in
Yeah.
a, you know, and I don't do that very well. I'm a mumbler and stutterer. I do that. And that's why
Well,
I come across better in videos that I can edit or in text.
I mean, I don't know the video that you shot that I liked very much when you addressed that guy who was on the verge of becoming atheist after being, I don't remember his name.
Rand Cannon Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I wanted to ask you whether it was scripted or not, and then I noticed that you even have this word unscripted in the caption of the video, and for me it was amazing. It was, like one breath, very, very clear and very, very, very. One guy even wrote that he cried a little bit, some tears
Yeah, I was
after
really
you.
honored by that. That almost made me want to cry. Wow, I had that kind of effect on somebody. That's really cool.
I
Very
can I can
humbling.
imagine that. Yeah, it should be very honorable to get some to get feedback like that.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that it wasn't very, also wasn't that popular. I was expecting this video to be very popular because I myself shared it uh, on big places on Facebook where they have thousands of people, and I don't know, they just didn't watch it. So,
I think I'm one of those kind of people that, you know, until you give me a chance, I come off probably the wrong way on a lot of people. Rub them the
why?
wrong way. I don't know. I don't know. That's just kind of the impression I get. I feel like that some people have made comments and then you could tell they didn't watch the video, and then they would watch the video and make a different comment that, you know, seemed to be more favorable. And
Yeah,
then and I
it's
also see that in
interesting.
Facebook comments too, because I share on there, and I'll see people make comments. Oh, look, another neckbeard, angry atheist, woohoo! And then come back on the same Facebook post and say, oh, well, okay, this was some good points actually. Blah blah blah, and you can see their disposition change, and so I just get the impression that before people know me or who haven't heard me speak before, that I come off the wrong way. I just tend to rub people in a way they don't like.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it's strange how people comment and even haven't read carefully or haven't watched carefully, and they comment.
Yeah, yeah, I get some of that too. I had this conversation earlier today, and I went through this whole thing over the last 2 days with that rainbow chick and trying to make her see where, look, you read this, but you just didn't read it right. You left out some critical words that changed this, or you added something, and then this guy comes in and tries to help agree with me, it seemed like, but then he goes and does the same thing, and his excuse was, well, I'm a very busy person, and, I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. I'm a busy guy too, and I just gave you all my time and paid attention to every comment you made, and then he still weighed in when he hadn't even listened to what I'd said, and it was very frustrating. I explained to him that like hyperlinks in a video, if you're chatting on Google Plus and you put a timestamp in, it'll link to the video
Hmm.
in the post. But if you put another video in the comments and want to mention a timestamp in that video, the timestamp still links to the original post's video,
Hmm.
not the one you're talking about. And I said it to this guy twice, and he comes back, and we go through all this stuff, and finally he's like, okay, well, I'm trying it again, and it's not working. It's still taking me to the other guy's video. And I just couldn't, I was trying so hard to be nice. I was.
Well,
And I'm
not
sitting there,
always in that conversation.
and I'm just like, don't click the timestamp. He's like, oh, and finally it seems like, oh, okay. He's like, all right, well, send me a link to the video then. There's 3 of them up above where I even quoted myself that had the link in it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you could tell that the problem was really that he just wasn't reading what I had said. Or he just wasn't listening to what I had said. And I don't know. I think it's just an issue with modern technological society. People are in such a hurry that they start reading something and they think they understand it before they've actually finished and taken the time to consider what was said.
Hilarious caption in Facebook. Christians in Ohio fight back against godless atheists with prayer. So they're bashing us by praying, by talking to themselves.
That's
scary.
yeah. If they think that makes them warriors in this fight, whew, I don't know. It is a fight. It's a war. It's a war of ideas.
Yeah.
And I just want that, one day when my kids are all grown up, my age, in their 30s, that they'll look back at some of these videos and be proud that Daddy, spoke about equality and good, proper education and promoted science and good thinking. And I don't have any problem that they'll hear me curse the way I do because I hope that society will change. And that's actually one of the things I think that boosted my viewership, as silly as that may sound. I started cursing more in my videos. I started being more just aggressive and not worrying about offending somebody. And I don't think that that's a problem. I think that society will slowly change. The best argument I've ever heard against cursing so far was when the guy tried to tell me that these words weren't tied to reality and that we shouldn't be using words like that. And, that was the best argument I'd heard. It's easily rebutted when we talk about things like y'all. If you're going to be offended by a word that's not tied to reality, then why aren't you offended by words like y'all or gosh darn or gee golly willikers? Right? Why wouldn't you also be offended by those words? They don't have the same tie to reality in the same way. In fact, a word like ass has even more tie to reality than those words do. And
I
so,
mean, if you try to dig into it, they are tied in reality the way we tie them into the reality in our minds.
yeah.
And
And he was trying to approach that argument saying that on that basis, these aren't even words. And what you just said is kind of how I responded. No, they are words, and they're words by the way we use them.
yeah, exactly.
Cat. And so, yeah, I gave him an example that I thought, which really it was a whole argument buster for him. I don't see how he could have in any way responded. He didn't seem to try to, but I wrote out sentence a few different ways. Fucking the dog ran down the road. The fucking dog ran down the road. And the dog ran down the fucking road. We can immediately see that the first example is incoherent because we all have an understanding of how that word should be used in that context. And that understanding makes it a fucking word. And so, I mean, you know, I think that the social mentality will change. I think cursing like that is becoming more accepted. I don't think there's ever any valid reason that those words should have been considered curse words in the first place. And if we change the social atmosphere, there won't be curse words anymore. They'll just be words, as they should be.
You know what I would say as somebody who just, you know, from a different culture and different country, watching movies, I wouldn't say they are anything special. There are so many of them on TV, in movies, that I'm even surprised that somebody has issues with them still.
Yeah, there are some. You know, the guy I was debating with was a teacher. He was telling he had a post about how he tells his classroom not to curse and all this stuff, and I guess he's a college teacher of some kind. But you know, he tried to say that, you know, one of the other arguments was that it shows a lack of vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I thought that was coming from a teacher. To me, it shows that how, and I'm not taking a shot at the guy or anything, but it shows how minimal the requirements to be a teacher are. You don't have to be a good thinker to be a teacher anymore. Because if you are voluntarily restricting words from your own vocabulary, words that you refuse to say, by very definition, you have a limited vocabulary. And to try to turn around and accuse someone else of having a limited vocabulary for using words that you refuse to use is just, it's asinine just to even suggest such a thing.
Well, I would say to that probably those words are now very deeply in the literature, and the more you go, the more they will be embedded. I can agree with him that they are not acceptable for all situations. You won't go to a formal meeting to some college graduation ceremony and say those words from the stage. But if you're an entertainer, if you're showing your emotions, and if it's appropriate in this respect.
No, see, that I agree with, but he didn't make that point.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but he never made that point. He made the point that we should not use these words at all, ever. That's it. He allowed for no context. If you use this word, I think you have a limited vocabulary.
That's not convincing at all.
Yeah. Especially when, you know, it is by definition having a limited vocabulary when you have a list of words you refuse to use.
Yeah.
And so
that's self-contradicting. So
and not only that, but there's also, let me add one more thing to this. There's also some tools that you're missing out on by not using this specific list of words, such as some comedic effects and some emphasis effects. that you no longer have if you refuse to use those words or any word that doesn't have a tie to reality, especially. You lose those abilities.
Yeah.
And so not only is your vocabulary limited, but the tools for which to use that vocabulary are also limited.
Yeah, I can agree.
All right, Nick. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, man. I had a lot of fun. It was
Yeah, I've
interesting.
also enjoyed it. Thanks for your time and for your insights and ideas. And it's been interesting as always. Actually, I don't know whether you remember or not, we first met on one of the Hangouts where I
We did, yes.
noticed you, yeah, and subscribed to your channel. And I think we should do it more, even to attract more people. That's one of the ways also to grow your channel and to attract more people and to find
Well,
good friends.
yeah, and I think just in general, me and you tend to have really great conversations anyway, no matter what we're talking about. I think that they're interesting, and if I wasn't part of them, I'd certainly listen.
Thanks. Thank you
So,
very much. So that's all for today. Thanks to everybody who has been listening to us online.
and future
To,
viewers.
and for the future views, we'll be grateful for your comments, for your feedback, and we'll be glad to subscribe to new channels and to promote new channels and to get shout outs from other guys, and together we'll change the world.
Hell yeah. Only those crazy enough to think they can actually change the world ever do.
Right.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, have a good evening for today and
Peace out.
talk to you later.